I do a lot of foresight work, and I look to the arts and the fringes to show us what's coming next, because it's these voices that do move us forward. And we want to pay attention, and we're going to really want to pay attention today by welcoming Tatiana Moroz.
I grew up in New Jersey, and my mother was from Warsaw, my father was from Brooklyn. And I remember, as long as I can, when I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a singer. And one of the main reasons was because my mom, she would always play this wonderful music for me in the car. And she had a very profound influence on me because she would play a lot of those 60s and 70s songwriters. And I remember being in the car listening to Cat Stevens' Peace Train and thinking, wow, you can use music to convey an idea, and you can use music to influence culture. And throughout my life, this has been a driving factor. I went to Berklee College of Music, as I said before, and I thought that I was doing all the right things in order to, get success, right? And I moved back to New York, and I started working at a series of different recording studios. But I felt it was very, very frustrating because this was the time where Britney Spears and all of these artists were coming out, and even though I like to dance to that stuff at the club, it really didn't resonate with this music with meaning that I had. So it was very frustrating to see all these different artists getting into the studio, wasting time in the studio, and there were other artists that simply didn't have access to these different resources. But I persevered, and I did my New York singer-songwriter thing, which is a very thankless job. In New York, if you perform and if you make $50, I remember at one time I made $50, and it was like a parade. I was extremely excited. I knew that I could cover my expenses, and that was, basically all I could really expect from the experience. I started to use social media, and when I first started using social media, I thought it was really exciting because, wow, this is something that a broke artist could take advantage of and to reach different people. So I started out with Friendster, and then I went to MySpace, and then I went to Facebook. And, I at the same time started doing a lot of different political music. So I started advertising on Facebook, right? So I spent what little money I had in order to gain my fans because I figured, okay, well, these were people that I could then market to later. It was worth the investment, right? Unfortunately, Facebook changed things, right? I'm pretty sure everybody here in the room knows about how that changed. And all of a sudden, I had to pay to access my own fans. And this was, of course, very frustrating. Another thing that I felt was frustrating was when somebody would want to send me a message, and they would basically have to pay Facebook $1 in order to reach me if they didn't know me well enough, right? And this really upset me because now I'm getting all these weird spammy messages, and Facebook is keeping 100% of the dollar. So as I said, I did a lot of political stuff, but I found that politics was very, very divisive. If I said what my party was, everybody's ears would close. And my goal with music was to bring people together. So after the 2012 elections, I became a little despondent. I liked the philosophy, but I didn't feel that there was a solution. And then I had some friends approach me from a company called BitPay, and they told me all about Bitcoin. Now, I knew about some of the questionable things with central banking that, raised some concerns for a lot of citizens, and I still didn't care about Bitcoin. I thought it was really boring. I wanted them to leave me alone. And finally, I said, okay, take $500, buy me, some Bitcoins, and that was the end of it. And I bought my Bitcoins at $11. Today, one Bitcoin is worth $900. So somewhere along that path, I became a lot more interested. But what really got me interested was not, the money was fine, but it was the story of what Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies could do. I had a friend of mine, Jeffrey Tucker, is a great speaker, and he has this wonderful way of painting a picture with the way that he speaks. And I decided to go to his event in Atlanta in August of 2013, and I recognized something in the room. I recognized hope. And this was something that I hadn't seen in a very long time. There were people from all different persuasions, but instead of them asking the government for permission or, holding a picket sign and trying to make demands, they were innovating. And I gained this great appreciation for technology. I'm the person that barely knows how to turn on their computer. So you can imagine I was very, very surprised to find myself there. As time went on, I decided, okay, well, how can I get people into cryptocurrency? What am I good at? Okay, well, I can write a song. So I wrote a Bitcoin jingle, and I debuted it in December of 2013 down in Buenos Aires. Now, if any of you have been to Buenos Aires, it's a very interesting market for Bitcoin because they have a very unstable financial system, and it's very hard to store your value. And they're also used to getting money on the black market. So they were kind of primed for this. Huge audience, 300 people. And I sang to them the Bitcoin jingle, and they all cheered, and they were all so happy. And I was very happy because I felt very accepted. And so I started moseying along with this Bitcoin crowd, and I thought, okay, now we're doing something. And I started hearing people say, Tatiana coin, Tatiana coin. And I said, well, what's Tatiana coin? And I was introduced to Adam B. Levine of a company called Tokenly. But at the time, he was in charge of a podcast called Let's Talk Bitcoin. And Let's Talk Bitcoin had grown into a podcasting network. So they had, 12 different shows. And Adam also had an arts background. So we started thinking about how could cryptocurrency, how could blockchain, how could Bitcoin help creative people? Because it was so frustrating being an artist. And I believe that we have an obligation to try and push the culture in a positive way. Hopefully without offending anyone, right? Not an easy task. So what we did was we created the first ever artist cryptocurrency. And what Tatiana Coin set out to do was bridge the gap between the artist and the fans and take out the middleman. The first component of it was a solution for crowdfunding. Now everybody here has heard of Indiegogo and Kickstarter and all these platforms. And the problem with, they're great, but there are some problems, right? It only lasts for 30 days, right? And you have to do it on a separate platform, so people are not going directly to your site. But also, let's say you want to donate $50 to me. And for $50, the prize is a CD and a t-shirt. But you already have that CD, and the t-shirt is not your style. And then basically you're stuck with this swag that you didn't exactly want. So Tatiana Coin started out as a solution for that. I could sell my coins at any time that I wanted, and they functioned a little bit like a digital gift certificate. So instead of having a fixed prize, you would get $50 worth of Tatiana coins, and you could spend them on whatever you wanted. Or you could even send them to your friends. You could sell them to somebody if you decided you didn't like my music anymore. And basically that was the connection point, right? I could give my fans back something valuable, and they could use it however they wanted. And I liked that flexibility, and I liked taking out the middleman. But then I started thinking about, well, what else do I want to do with my fans? And that communication layer became very important to me. So what we did was we started adding in features. And Adam, now the proud owner of Tokenly, didn't think that he was going to get suckered into this. But, making the coin was so easy, but making the rails where it could travel was really, really difficult. So he created basically sort of like a Shopify kind of back end where you could sell your music directly to your fans. And things have sort of evolved since then. What we're basically going to be putting out is a way for fans to communicate with each other directly, communicate with me directly. There's sort of a gamification of the artist coin itself. So, I'm the biggest Tatiana coin holder, therefore I'm the biggest fan. I encourage people to compete in that regard. And then we started experimenting even more. Now, mind you, again, I hate technology. I thought this was going to be this really easy thing. But what's been so exciting about this is that it really taps into that natural entrepreneurial spirit that artists have. And it gives them a solution for that. It gives them a way to be creative. So now what we started to do is we started to think about ownership, right? If you have 1 million plays on Spotify, an artist only gets, if my song is played 1 million times, I get $1,000 for 1 million plays of my song. How exactly am I supposed to support myself that way? That's obviously, rhetorical question. It's not possible. So what we started to play around with was an album token, which would be sort of like, remember how you used to have a record and you could lend it to your friend, you can sell it if you need some extra cash or something? Well, we don't have that anymore. For example, if you get your music on iTunes or any of these platforms, you're really just basically buying a license. You can't share that music with anyone. And then we've got all the DRM stuff where people are burning music and they're sharing it around and the artist is getting no revenue. So what we've started experimenting with is having album tokens that are basically transferable. You can rent them for money, you can loan them to somebody, you can sell them, but they aren't violating the artist's copyright. And we've even built in a way to incentivize other people in order to, my fans, so they feel like they're earning something. I also like the idea of rewarding them and doing different kinds of contests where, if you have some Tatiana coins and if you share my music, you can earn more, that kind of thing. So how does this affect everybody else? Well, when we first started doing Tatiana Coin, I reflected back on work ethic. I used to manage all these different recording studios, and there were all these interns there. And a lot of the times, the owners were not really compensating them properly, but they basically had to stay there because everybody needs to work in a recording studio. It's very competitive, so they basically are treated very poorly. And it struck me how important a good work ethic is. And so when we think about artist coins, and when I thought about them, I also thought about what other ways can companies take advantage of this? Are there other types of businesses that can build up these loyalty programs with people? Are there other ways that we can be exchanging value that we never thought before, and we don't have to, once again, have that middleman in between? This technology can be very, very scary for people who are in established businesses, right? And I remember when we first started talking about Bitcoin, everybody laughed at us. And now when I go, it's all bankers. It's all insurance people. It's all these professional people who years ago thought we were just rebels, which we were. But the cool thing is that it's very, very inclusive and it's very welcoming. And another thing that I really like about cryptocurrency is it harkens back to my original goal, which is to help humanity. Currently, there are 2 billion people in the world that don't have access to banking. It's not just because banks are greedy and they don't want to do it, because there's a lot of regulation, there's difficulties in terms of remote areas, people don't have identification. So now, because of Bitcoin, and other types of cryptocurrencies, there are all sorts of experiments, but basically someone in Africa can have a bank account on their phone. They don't need ID, they don't need anything. All they need is a crappy SMS phone, and they basically can transfer value. And it's really important because people talk about poverty and you want to give people help, but this is something that can actually help them build something for themselves. Another story I have is I have a friend who has a charity called Code to Inspire. And in one of the iterations, they would basically take these Afghan girls and they would have them write blog content. And then when they would get paid, they would have to send a woman all around Afghanistan with a bag of money, giving these girls money to put under their mattresses. But obviously, there are a lot of cultural differences there. And sometimes women are not able to hold any value. So this became very dangerous. But now, with a simple click of a button, they could have money on their bank account, which is on their little phone, and nobody has to know about it. It's not my business to judge what they're going to do with that money, and I don't even have to deal with the political angle. They can do whatever they want. And that, to me, is a message that a lot of artists can get behind. So going back to the challenges of cryptocurrency, I think that artists, as natural messengers, we can bring people into cryptocurrency in a way that's really fun and that doesn't threaten them, and that's not really about knowing about what the blockchain is. It's about connecting with your fans and having trust and having security. And that's, I think, the direction that the entire world is going in. Happy to say, because there were a lot of times of doubt. And the other thing is free speech. If you listen to music right now, most of the music has a very homogeneous message. And it's also very difficult to pick through it. But what you can do with connecting with your communities directly is you don't have to please everybody. You don't have to please the corporate overlords that tell you what you have to sing about. And that's fine for some people if they want to do that. But for an artist like me, I can play to my base and they can support me. And I can sing about whatever it is that I'm really passionate about. And that's really important. Not everybody has to agree with me, but that's one of the things that makes everyone want to come to America. The American dream is that free speech, that equality. There are also other ways that cryptocurrency is being used. As an artist, I had a lot of problems getting paid, right? You show up to a gig, you play, and then, oh, well, I'm sorry, we don't have any money for you. It's amazing how they had money for everything else, but not for the artist. And of course, that's frustrating. You know, you got to pay rent. It's very stressful. You can't make good music if you're crying all day. And so what we ended up, what people are experimenting with now is judicial systems. So if I wanted to do a performance and an event wants to hire me, we do a contract, and we don't need an escrow agent. We don't need to go to a lawyer and do all this stuff. We can do something on the blockchain where we both agree. Tatiana will sing, she will sound great, these people will pay, everybody's happy. And if Tatiana doesn't show up for some reason, then there are other ways of arbitration. So I don't know if you've ever had to go to small claims court. It's a total nightmare. You can't get anything done. So to me, these are really great ways to make progress. And I think that this is something that everybody can take advantage of. And that's, again, what I love about cryptocurrency is I get to meet so many different kinds of people that have different backgrounds, that have different interests. And it's just this super creative way that everybody is participating. So, what's going to happen next? I've created an album, and I funded it completely with cryptocurrency. I went into the studio. I forced the studio to accept Bitcoin. There's a lot of force going on, but I had to get them into it. I paid all my musicians with it, and now I'm going to serve as one of the alpha tokens on the Tokenly platform, and I have my artwork. It's done by a very controversial political prisoner, as I view it, and part of the reason why I wanted to do that is to push that envelope and to say, this is an example of how art can be freed, and how it illustrates that it wouldn't be possible with the old paradigm. So our plans are, over the next month, I'm going to be going around, I'm going to be touring, I'm going to be talking to people about it. And I've created a lot of different content to try and help people get into cryptocurrency and answer their questions, which we're going to do in just a few minutes. I'm sure you guys have a few of them. But we're going to start out with a crowdfunding campaign. So up there you can, well, not up there, but somewhere over there, there's a way that people can find my website and they can support me, and we'll be doing that on February 9th for 30 days. We're going to try it out. But another thing that I really didn't touch on was just all the other ways that artists can take advantage. So with me, they can support me directly. But there's also ways where you can track ownership and you can set who's going to get the money. And then there's also the benefit of transparency. I, of course, identify with the independent artist, but major record labels have a lot of overhead and a lot of bloat associated with trying to keep track of their finances. And that's very difficult for them, and then that cost is passed on to the artist, and there's no transparency there. There's also ways that you can tip your artist, right? So if you like an artist's song or something like that, if you wanted to send them a tip, $1 or something, you couldn't use Visa or MasterCard because the expense of the transaction is too high. But now there's solutions where you can send them a micro tip. And it's not just for artists. It could be for YouTube personalities or comedians, all different kinds of creative people. They're even figuring out a way to register visual art on the blockchain, so people can't steal your visual art. And I think that this is great. And I love the creativity. And I guess before I play my last song for you guys, I just wanted to make sure that you don't feel threatened by something like this, because it's inclusive. It is very disruptive. It's going to change the world. I oftentimes say Bitcoin and blockchain and cryptocurrencies are like the internet for value. They're going to change the way that we think about what is valuable, how do we communicate with each other, how do we make a deal. But it's going to be something that I think will change the world for the better. And I think that with more transparency and with more security and with more control and understanding of what our money actually can do, I think that we're in for a really, really good ride.
Tatiana, thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Thank you. It was fun. I was very nervous, but you guys were pretty friendly. This lady over there, she's a big smiler. I like it.
Yeah, a lot of friendly faces in the front row there. Not quite even sure where to start. It's a really interesting, complex conversation, I think. One thing, though, I wanted to ask you, there's so many pitfalls in the music industry. You were, you had a chance to go on America's Got Talent. Is that
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about America's
No, we
Got
didn't.
Talent.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I was, playing in New York, dead end, right? Family thinks I'm a complete idiot. And then they started watching, America's Got Talent and American Idol and all these shows. And to me, I thought it was kind of cheesy. I never really liked singing contests. They're usually kind of rigged, and it's not really my thing. But I decided I'm going to do it. And before a show of mine, we had the America's Got Talent scouts there, and they were watching me perform. And they loved me. And they said, "Oh, we want you to be on the show." And I said, "Okay, well, that sounds great. I'm going to be famous." And then they sent over a contract. And the contract, when I showed it to my attorney, he says, "Oh, well, you can't sign this." And I'm like, "What do you mean I can't sign this? They're going to make me famous." And he told me that the contract was so restrictive that if I was shown on camera for 30 seconds even, that they would basically own the rights to all of my career till the end of time. My songwriting, my publishing, everything, which seems insane. But, I kept asking. I'm like, "Are you sure about this, Jonathan?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm sure." And then they would call me and they would say, "Oh, don't worry about those contracts. They're fine." And it was so upsetting to me because now every time, and my family was so pissed. They're like, "Why didn't you do this? You could have been something." And that's so disheartening as an artist, right? Because people think it's all fun and games. Being an artist is a really miserable experience. But when I see all these people on stage and they're wonderful and very talented, I feel really, really bad for them because they're not getting a good deal a lot of the times. And, I like capitalism, but, there has to be some sort of a balance, right? So those organizations need to make money, but it can't just be all on their terms. So that was the tale of America's Got Talent.
That's yeah, and not a surprise. I mean, those network contracts, I'm sure they're very much in the favor of the people who are making and spending the money. What cryptocurrency solves part of the problem, right? But and surely the internet has created all kinds of different platforms for promotion, for distribution. What are some of the big gap areas still in your mind as far as just a full-on disruption of the music industry for folks like you?
Well, I think capital is an issue. So, we did the Tatiana coin and we're going to be raising money or whatever. But what I think is a problem is that when artists are starting out, they don't necessarily have a fan base that can support them, and it's relatively expensive to record an album, even if you kind of try and do it on the cheap. And sometimes you don't want to wait 5 years until you build up your audience to finally cut a record, right? What I would love to see happen is an ability for other people to invest. So right now, the record label serves a lot of different purposes. Yes, they do a lot of work, but they also give you a loan. It's just not a very good loan. So if you can open that up to different kinds of people and allow them to actually invest in artists the same way you do all kinds of micro-lending, I think that would be really a good solution. And I think it would be another way that people could kind of engage with one another more so. And then on the other tip is that, how do you find good music? I don't know. I mean, I'm a musician. People ask me, what do you, I think I just went dead. People ask me, what do you listen to? And, I name bands from 40, 50 years ago because I don't have time to go sifting through everything. So there's Pandora and there's Spotify and there's all these massive music distributors. But at the same time, how do you pick through it? So one of the things that I like the direction that Adam is taking the company is that we're going to have it so it's almost like playlist sharing, and you can share your music with other people and have them filter it. I'd also like to see us filtering out news because, there's a lot of different news out there right now, topic of fake news, what's not. I think it's really hard to tell, and it's a very intimidating process for people. So I'd love for there to be a way where you can share what, I think this person is smart, and they're on the left, and they've got a good head on their shoulders. This person's on the right, they've got a good head on their shoulders. And then I can, be able to see what kind of news they're sharing. And then this way they can sort of serve as a filter. And that is all about, connecting people more and more independently without somebody else telling us what to do or think.
Gotcha. I've got another 100 questions for you, but I'm going to open it up to, because I'm sure you guys do too. Who would like to ask Tatiana a question?
Got one over here.
Yep.
Hi. Thank you for that.
Hi.
You said something that sort of caught my attention when you were talking about treating your fan base and rewarding them like a loyalty scheme. Mm-hmm. A bunch of people in this room, we work in that sort of environment, and I wonder if spending more time in sort of corporate America, what can we learn from sort of an artist's approach to loyalty that's scalable and might make Sky Miles better, something like that?
Well, there are companies that are solving that problem, and they're using cryptocurrency in order to incentivize people, and it seems to be a more streamlined way of doing it. So if people want to know about that, I can make some recommendations and some introductions. But I definitely think that the loyalty point system being done by cryptocurrency is a really easy access point for people, no pun intended. And then I think it'll kind of streamline things and bring people on board. And what's nice about it is that it keeps the money inside of your market, right? So let's say you're Walmart. If you have Walmart coin, people are going to be more likely to spend that in your store. Sure, they can sell it or whatever, just like a gift card. But you want to kind of be able to gamify that experience for them. And it's something new and it's cutting edge. People are hearing about Bitcoin, they're hearing about blockchain. They don't know what this is. So it's a way that you can kind of get them on board without terrifying them.
So you've talked a lot about value, which I think as an artist is a really interesting time for, because you see people who are painting and they'll paint like a circle on a drawing or on a canvas, and it sells for thousands of dollars. But it's a really interesting thing that iTunes has sort of set this precedent that a song is only worth 99 cents, or if it's a single, $1.99. So how do you see this opportunity as a way to set value for your song or whatever songs it is that you're putting out, or how many? And how are you going to determine how much it should be worth?
Well, when we created the artist coin, of course, value is subjective, right? Some people want to give away their music for free. Some people want to charge more than 99 cents for their song. They have different needs. And one of the frustrations with, the recording industry going and lobbying in Congress is they're kind of speaking for everybody. And that's not everybody's view. So my goal when creating the artist coin was to make it as flexible as possible. So whatever artist wants to do it, they don't even have to call it a coin, I don't care. But they can basically set their own pricing and they can adjust it. And our goal is to make it as flexible as possible. It's not my business to make that judgment call for them. And also another thing is that, in a way, I was concerned because we're building another platform. So how are we not Facebook? Well, the thing is that if you have a coin and your art and your fan is the coin, you can leave that platform. You can build your own API. You can build your own app. And I'm sure that there will be other companies coming down the pike that are going to offer similar services. So that was really important to me as well, was being able to take your fans and leave if you don't like what's being offered.
So you're building a platform now.
We have built a platform.
Yeah, okay, and
Yes.
that is your primary distribution vehicle?
I'm not going to discriminate. I think that people can listen to music wherever they want. But the people that really want to support me directly, and I think that there are people that want that authenticity, they can come to my website. And Tokenly has made it so I can have all the stuff right on my site. And then they'll have token.fm. And then that'll be where the marketplace is, where everybody's kind of sharing music and interacting with each other. and they're going to be doing their beta around the same time as I'm launching, and then they'll be putting in all their features and everything by July. So
Is
we're
your
going.
music exclusive to that platform?
No, I'll be putting it out on iTunes.
You will.
and
You will.
Amazon
Okay,
and
got
all
it,
that
got
stuff.
it.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Tatiana.
Thank you.